Hi, I'm glad you have joined us for the fourth and final session of the Equipping Pastor, the Equipping Church. We've been on a journey to understand what it means to be an equipping pastor, what it means to be and lead an equipping church. I love the Pauline epistles, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, those passages, those letters I read often and find myself there. When you read the book of Colossians or the letter to the Colossians, you'll find Paul's direction, foundation for that letter is the Christ of the church. But then when you read the book of Ephesians, you'll find that the theme is the church of Christ. So Paul is tailor-making what it is that he says to his audience. He knows the people that he's writing to. The Colossians need to understand the supremacy of Christ. The Ephesians needed to understand the fullness of the work of the church and the power of the church being in the hands of the people and not just the apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, or teacher. Hence, we too must tailor-make what we do to fit the context of our ministry. Because all of us are different, and we're in different locations, and we're reaching different cultures, generations, and we need to reflect on how we present what we present, that it might be best received to guide the people toward this biblical reboot of releasing the laity to do the work of ministry. Ministry is not done by the pastor alone. Ministry ought to be in the life of every believer. But it takes some thinking outside the box. So today, in this short segment, we're going to talk a little bit about what might be some next steps for you. What might be some next steps? So I'd like for you to take a piece of paper and draw out 9 dots, just like you see on the screen behind me. Just take a pen or a pencil and a clear sheet of paper and place 9 dots there. Now I'm going to move over to my paper, and I want you to look how that I have created my dots. And what I'd like for you to do is take your pencil and connect all 9 of those dots without lifting your pencil or pen from the paper. Connect all 9. Find some way in which you might connect the dots. So you might want to stop the video right now. Well, maybe not right now, because if you do, you won't hear the rest of what I've said. But stop the video, take your pen, and connect all 9 of the dots without lifting your pencil or your pen. So why don't you try it? now that you have returned, did you get it done? Did you get it accomplished? Were you able to find a way in which you could connect all 9 dots without lifting your pencil? It's really a little challenging, actually. As you look at it, how do I connect these dots? And our first knee-jerk reaction is that somehow there's got to be a way. And there is, but not with just normal thinking. You've got to become creative. You need to maybe enlist someone to join you that might help you think outside the box. That's a term that's used, I believe, a little too frequently, but in this case, I'm going to use it. We must not be driven by what's inside the walls of our church, not driven by what we've done throughout the years that are within the context of those 4 dots, but we've got to think outside. So follow me here. We're coming from the top right-hand corner and we're coming down. Then we're going up, outside the box, down, outside the box, and over. You see that? Now again, thinking outside the box is a term that's used that I believe people say, and they really, I don't know, they've got this connotation with that causes them to think that they are thinking more broadly than what someone else would think. But really, we do at times need to think creatively. How can we do what we do and yet not compromise the message? Because the methods are always changing as we are applying what it is that we have learned to the context in which we are serving. To the context in which we are serving. Here's what I just did. Again, we've started over here. We've come down. We've gone up. We've come down outside the box, and we've connected them. Now, think about this one. Here's another way in which you might connect all 9, but it takes place outside the lines. So I want to encourage you to use our discussion guides that we've provided to you, that you'll find on pages 11 and 12, and then on page 16, and take this information to your team to discuss it. And it will give you, as you discuss these things within the context of your team, it gives you a broad cross-section of your church. And hopefully your team is not filled with people that are just like you, that are thinkers like you, but are different kinds of thinkers. They're younger, they're older, they're middle age, they're men, they're women. because all of us think and process things differently. So as we bring our team together and we process the information that we have received, we together can come up with a plan as to how we might apply what we've learned to the context we find ourselves serving in ministry. So let's think about this. You remember at times I've said to you, leaders must be readers. But reading without reflection becomes rote learning and produces no long-term significance. So that's the reason that we build in these times. What have I learned? What was I reminded of? And how is it going to change what I do? Leaders must be readers, but you must take time to reflect on what it is that you read in order for you to learn how you might apply it. You see, there are levels of learning as we equip people. There is a rote level of learning, which is the ability to repeat without thought of meaning. We just repeat it. We've just memorized it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We just memorize it. We memorize the multiplication tables. Okay, but if we do not do anything with what we have learned, we only have learned at a level of rote learning. We have to move from a rote learning level to a recognition level, which is the ability to recognize concepts, or in our case, the biblical concepts of the equipping pastor and the equipping church. Then we move to the third level, which is restatement of those biblical concepts. The ability to express or relate the concepts to a biblical system of thought. Then we move to the fourth level, which is relation. The ability to relate Bible truths, watch this, to life and see the appropriate response. So we move from rote to recognition to restatement to relation. And then finally, the fifth level is realization, which would be actualizing response to apply biblical truths to daily life. So as we are equipping people, we don't want just to give them the ability to repeat what we've said or to parrot it. We want them to have the ability to recognize the biblical concepts that we've shared. We want them to be able to express and relate those biblical concepts to a system of thought. Then we want them to have the ability to relate those Bible truths and see how that they would impact life in moving Florida forward. And then we actually want to take the step and actualize moving Florida forward, a response in applying biblical truths into our daily church life. Those are the levels of learning, not just that I'm taking and sharing from my mind and it's being seated in your mind. I want it to go beyond, just as I stated in one of the other sessions, a data dump or information just for the sake of information. We want every pastor to be transformed into an equipping pastor and lead an equipping church. Because Paul said about the church in Ephesians, He, Christ, gave apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher, watch, for the equipping of the saints, so that the saints can do the work of ministry, so that the body of Christ is edified as well as increased. So I want you to take some time and reflect on how you ask yourself this question: how can I pass what I have learned to my team? Again, what have I learned? What have I been reminded of? And what will I do now? Well, we're giving you some suggestions about what you might do now. We've actually given you on pages 11 and 12 of your learning module some directives that would guide a discussion with your team. Take some time, review on pages 11 and 12, and bring your team together and discuss these concepts, these principles, this biblical reboot where that the laity in the church have been called to serve, and you in that time of discussion find about how you might apply it to your context of ministry. In addition, you're going to find questions here. Say question number 1, in addition to Ephesians 4, identify other Bible passages and church documents that address the purpose of church leadership. See, these are things that you can lead your group through, your team through. There are 8 different discussions. You might take 1 or 2 of them in a session so as to do a comprehensive study on all 8 of those directives you'll find in pages 11 and 12. Then on page 16, you'll also find 5 directives. Use the following as a discussion guide with your leadership team regarding an equipping culture. And this one on page 16 is about your leadership team meeting, vision of your church for equipping ministry. This will help you and your team begin to formulate the directive of you becoming a equipping pastor and you leading an equipping church. Blessings on you. I'm looking forward to our discussion time together.